Hey guys, I'm back for Franco Fridays. Today I'm going to cover, I guess, the B side of this double feature that was released by Blue Underground Fu Manchu. I covered Blood last week. Today I'm going to cover the Castle of Fu Manchu, which is the last of the Fu Manchu films that were produced by Harry Alan Towers, directed by Jess Franco. This is actually my favorite. It gets a lot of hate. And it is the production values were substantially cheaper in this film. You got a lot of basically lifting of scenes from other movies. It was cheaply done, and it shows. But it is a much more fun film. Certainly more fun than Blood of Dracula, mainly because we have more of Chris Lee. One of the problems I said last week was that Chris Lee has so little to do in these films, and I blame Harry Alan Towers' script for that predominantly. But in this one, he actually has a lot more screen time, and I think that helps the film. Is it a good film? No. But is it a fun film if you take it in a humorous, absurd fashion, comic bookish fashion that it's intended to be? It's actually the more fun film of the two. I think the problem with the Castle of Fu Manchu is that, it was shot in the late 60s. It didn't get a release in the U.S. until 1972. And in all the TV versions of the film, which I grew up in this period, I got to see it a lot. When they were going to show Fu Manchu on TV, Castle got shown over and over and over, but it was always butchered. And what they left into the film was all the scenes that were lifted from other movies. For example, there's a long sequence of excerpts from The Brides of Fu Manchu, that was inserted into this film, which I think is shameful. I mean, it's that they would do that. The worst pirating of other people's work is the opening sequence. Fu Manchu is demonstrating his ability to crystallize and freeze the ocean, and he's doing it as an example. He did it in the Caribbean. So in the opening shot, you've got a ship. It looks like the Titanic ship being frozen in the Caribbean Ocean. Well, they lifted that from a Roy Ward Baker film, A Night to Remember. That's lifted right out of the film. They changed it to a black and white instead of color, and just inserted the film. The other thing you've got as far as this film is at the end, you've got a ridiculously edited series of black and white war footage and explosion footage inserted, whether it fit into the film or didn't fit into the film. It was just inserted. So you had this series of edited shots of explosion footage that just kind of fit incongruously with the rest of the film. All that choppiness makes it difficult to watch, and then when you watch a TV version that's been heavily edited, it makes it even worse. So I think that's kind of why, in my opinion, this film got riff-tracked and things like that. It's because no one really got to see the full unedited film. I think this film's a lot of fun. Chris Lee, of course, stars as Fu Manchu, and in this film, his diabolical plan this time is to conquer the world through crystallizing the ocean, freezing the ocean, and he's found this crystalline process that is actually also tied to the opium trade. The film takes place in Turkey, in a government official's house loaded with opium, and Fu Manchu is using that to control humans and basically perfect his crystalline process. He and his daughter Lin Tang. I think that's probably the most blatant poke at government hierarchy that Jess Franco has ever done in a film, is having this, basically making the accusation that Turkish government officials are hoarding opium. I think that's the most overt slap at government bureaucracy that I think Franco's ever done, quite honestly. This film got returning is, of course, Nayland Smith is Raymond Green, and he has got a lot more to do in this film as well, thankfully. There's just a lot of silly footage in this film, and as long as you don't take it seriously, it's a comic book movie, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of silly shots, like Fu Manchu captures the doctor that created the crystalline process. The guy has heart issues, and so he brings over another doctor to fix the guy's heart, and traps the two, he and his female, in the like in a dungeon area, and they throw this acid onto the dungeon, and it lets them out, basically. Melts the iron. It's just, and as soon as they get out, the first thing they do, they don't run. They have this long gazed kiss at each other. So they got time to do that in the middle of Fu Manchu's lair. Hilarious stuff. When the doctor and his basically his female compatriot are captured by Fu Manchu's gang, they stick them in coffins in broad daylight and bring them to Fu Manchu's lair. Now, I mean, they should get an award for the most suspicious looking people in the world. I mean, you got this group of Chinese guys carrying coffins in broad daylight. I mean, nobody notices that. Hilarious stuff. You've got scenes where Franco basically, I mean, he even admitted that this was, Harry Allen Towers really went cheap in this film. So you've got scenes where the layer is basically kind of, the background is dark, and you've got Fu Manchu, Chris Lee, and Lin Tang ominously looking over these glass chemistry lab bottles that have colored liquid in it, and of course you've got the free ice going, and it's just cheap, and they're staring at these things trying to look menacing. But I mean, the set, the set design, of course, is extremely cheap. This is the most threadbare of the series, and of course it meant the decline of the film as well, and of the series. This was the final film of the series, but I think it's the most fun. I just think it's just a ridiculous parody of fun. It's supposed to have taken place in Turkey, but turns out they shot the film in Barcelona, Spain, at a castle in Barcelona, Spain. But I mean, you wouldn't know that until you research it. It didn't. I mean, to watch it on the face of it, I mean, it didn't look too bad. The cover, it was a convincing Turkish place. But yeah, it was shot in Barcelona, Spain. So that is the end of Fu Manchu. He comes to his end in this film. He does have the signature at the end, "I will be back," kind of commentary with Chris Lee at the end, saying, "Hey, the world has not seen the rest of Fu Manchu, but unfortunately for us, it was the end." Fu Manchu films are a lot of fun, and even though they were cheaply made, particularly the last one, I think in some respects it was the best of the series. Now, as far as this release, this is the Blue Underground Blu-ray release. There was a DVD release in 2003, which I showed off last week. And I think the same comments I had with that release apply here. It's that Castle of Fu Manchu, while it looks okay, I think the DVD release in 2003 is just as good, and it has the same special features. So I would suggest, that if you got the 2003 box set of the Chris Lee films that include Fu Manchu and Circus of Fear, I would not double dip and buy this Blu-ray release, but that's up to you. So that's going to wrap up Franco Fridays, The Castle of Fu Manchu. I appreciate you watching, and I will be back next week. Thanks.